Following the decisive Battle of Nagashino, where Oda Nobunaga and Tokugawa Ieyasu crushed the formidable Takeda cavalry, Nobunaga's power and influence soared to new heights. The once dominant Takeda clan was left in ruins, its lands distributed among Nobunaga's trusted allies. Securing control over central Japan, he strengthened his position as the most powerful daimyo of the turbulent Sengoku period. This victory not only solidified his reputation as a master tactician, but also sent an unmistakable message to his adversaries. Nobunaga was an unstoppable force, prepared to embrace technological advancements and unconventional tactics to outmatch any opponent. Yet, just as he reveled in his triumph, a new challenger emerged, Uesugi Kenshin, famously known as the Dragon of Echigo. Both feared and revered, Kenshin was as much a battlefield tactician as he was a devout follower of Bishamoten, the god of war. Leading the Uesugi clan from the province of Echigo, he stood out as one of the few commanders capable of matching Nobunaga in military strength and prestige. With two such figures on a collision course, their inevitable confrontation signified more than just a territorial dispute. It became a struggle over the fate of Japan. As Nobunaga's dominance expanded, his notoriety grew alongside it. Many came to fear and despise him, dubbing him the Demon King, a title that reflected his unrelenting ambition and brutal efficiency. Unlike other daimyo, he saw more than just rival clans as obstacles. Traditional institutions, such as Buddhist temples, also became targets of his aggressive campaign for centralization. Viewing these religious centers as a hindrance to his vision of progress, he launched devastating attacks, including the destruction of Enryaku-ji on Mount Hiei, where entire monastic communities were annihilated. Opinions on Nobunaga varied greatly. Some hailed him as a revolutionary, a leader willing to dismantle the outdated feudal order that had long stifled Japan's advancement. Others, however, saw him as a ruthless tyrant who disregarded sacred traditions and disrespected the deeply ingrained spiritual values of society. His reputation as the Demon King came to symbolize both admiration and fear, a reflection of his relentless pursuit of power. While Nobunaga's tactics sowed fear among his enemies, they also unified those who perceived him as a grave danger. Meanwhile, Uesugi Kenshin was regarded as the antithesis of Nobunaga, a devout and honorable leader bound by faith and a strict warrior code. For Kenshin, the fight against Nobunaga was not just about territorial control, it was a spiritual crusade. Believing it was his divine duty to resist the Demon King, he saw himself as the defender of Japan's traditional values against Nobunaga's unrelenting expansionism. This stark contrast between the two leaders elevated their rivalry beyond mere military conflict. At its core, their struggle represented a clash of ideologies, Nobunaga's relentless march toward modernization against Kenshin's unwavering commitment to spiritual and warrior traditions. With the Takeda clan no longer posing a significant threat, Nobunaga turned his sights towards Kaga province, a wealthy and strategically valuable region serving as a gateway to Uesugi-controlled territories. Seeking to tighten his grip on the region, he dispatched forces to seize smaller fortresses and assert dominance, directly challenging Kenshin's authority. Viewing this incursion as an outright provocation, Kenshin recognized the necessity of swift action. Determined to safeguard his hold over Kaga and curb Nobunaga's advances, he mobilized an army of roughly 30,000 troops. His forces, comprising highly skilled samurai adept in close combat and siege warfare, formed an elite unit trained for both defensive and offensive maneuvers. Supplemented by expert archers and disciplined spearmen, Kenshin's army embodied the Uesugi clan's hallmark traditions of military precision and adaptability. Leading his troops personally, Kenshin set out for the Tedori River, a battleground he had carefully selected to maximize his tactical advantage. As Kenshin's forces advanced, Nobunaga prepared to counter the Dragon of Echigo by leveraging his superior weaponry and innovative battle strategies. His reliance on mass firearm formations had proven devastatingly effective at Nagashino, and he sought to replicate this success. Organizing his musketeers in coordinated units, he intended to use their firepower to break Kenshin's ranks while employing flexible infantry tactics to outmaneuver enemy forces. Confident in his blend of modern warfare and disciplined formations, he believed that superior technology and battlefield coordination would once again prove decisive. Upon reaching the Tedori River, Kenshin positioned his forces on elevated terrain, giving his army a natural defensive edge. The high ground advantage significantly reduced the effectiveness of Nobunaga's musketeers, as the humid conditions near the river interfered with firearm reliability. The unfavorable terrain played to Kenshin's strengths, creating the perfect conditions for close-quarter combat, where his warriors excelled. By using the terrain to his advantage, Uesugi Kenshin successfully disrupted Nobunaga's battle formations, forcing his opponent to reposition troops across multiple fronts. This maneuver exposed critical weaknesses in Nobunaga's communication lines, diminishing the effectiveness of his usual synchronized tactics. Kenshin's deep familiarity with the landscape, combined with his ability to identify and exploit enemy vulnerabilities, transformed the conflict into a showcase of his strategic brilliance. To further disorientate his adversary, Kenshin deployed small detachments to feign attacks at specific locations, luring segments of Nobunaga's forces into isolated engagements. This deceptive tactic led to confusion among Nobunaga's commanders, who reacted hastily and without coordination. As a result, the fragmentation of their troops weakened their central formations, leaving them exposed to further exploitation. With Nobunaga's forces in disarray, Kenshin positioned his army for a decisive strike. He exercised patience, waiting for the opportune moment when his opponent's army had become sufficiently disorganized before delivering his final, calculated assault. Seizing the initiative, Kenshin personally led a ferocious charge against Nobunaga's defenses. His elite cavalry surged forward with precision, penetrating deep into enemy lines and creating a critical breach in their formations. At the same time, his heavily armed infantry and skilled archers launched coordinated strikes from strategically placed flanks, intensifying the impact of the central attack. The mere presence of Kenshin on the battlefield served as a rallying force for his soldiers, who fought with renewed vigor and unwavering determination. Meanwhile, Nobunaga struggled to regain control, but the relentless pressure and disorder inflicted by Kenshin's offensive made effective reorganization nearly impossible. With communication lines completely severed, Nobunaga's army operated in a state of confusion, unable to mount a cohesive response to the unrelenting waves of attacks. By the time Kenshin's assault reached its peak, Nobunaga's forces had been thoroughly destabilized. This victory underscored the legendary tactical acumen of the Dragon of Echigo and solidified his status as one of the most brilliant strategists of the Sengoku era. For Nobunaga, the defeat at Tedorigawa became one of the most significant setbacks in his quest to unify Japan. Despite triumphing on the battlefield, the Uesugi clan soon faced an unforeseen crisis with Kenshin's untimely death in 1578. Accounts from the period suggest that he succumbed to a sudden illness, possibly a stroke, at the height of his influence. What mattered most, however, was the power vacuum this passing created, as the Uesugi clan struggled to maintain unity and military dominance in his absence. Without Kenshin's leadership, the clan's position in the Sengoku landscape weakened considerably. Internal disputes over succession led to division within the ranks, while external adversaries, including Nobunaga, capitalized on the instability to expand their own control. Though the Dragon of Echigo no longer stood in Nobunaga's way, his legacy endured. Revered as a leader who exemplified the samurai code of honor and spiritual devotion, Kenshin came to symbolize one of the last great bastions of resistance against Nobunaga's relentless ambition. Suffering defeat at Tedorigawa delivered a rare blow to Nobunaga, both militarily and psychologically. Having built his reputation on technological superiority and audacious tactics, he found himself outmaneuvered by Kenshin's strategic mastery. The battle laid bare the limitations of relying solely on firearms in unsuitable terrain, and reinforced the necessity of adapting tactics when facing commanders with deep battlefield experience. However, Nobunaga refused to let a single loss dictate his future. Quickly reassessing his failures, he reorganized his forces and refined his strategies, ensuring that he would be better prepared for opponents who leveraged the terrain and exploited his army's structural weaknesses. At the time, many observers noted that fortune seemed to favor Nobunaga, as both Takeda Shingen and Uesugi Kenshin passed away before they could consolidate their advances and deliver a final, decisive blow against him. Shingen had been marching toward Kyoto, while Kenshin had humiliated Nobunaga at Tedorigawa, yet their sudden deaths robbed them of the opportunity to fully execute their plans. Some question whether Nobunaga's survival was merely a matter of luck, but as the old saying goes, fortune favors the predestined.